So we are going to record all of these. They will be available on the partner portal so that you'll have access to refer back to them. I believe Tasha is also going to make room for them on the Stratos portal where you're doing all of your training now. So that's we'll talk about that as we go through. But we have a ton of stuff to go through, so I'm going to get right into it and we'll kind of go from there. So I appreciate, again, welcome to day one of the new and improved revised boot camp. This is going to be session number one for the one that starts April 27th. I'll say that just so we can refer to it back on the recordings. Lots of things to cover. We are going to go through most of it in some detail. This is designed so that you, as a consultant, developer, or salesperson, get a complete understanding of what Progressus is, and you'll hear it referred to as Progressus or Progressus Advanced Project Accounting or Progressus Advanced Projects, any of the three. We're kind of in an identity crisis right now, but that's for reasons beyond our control, mainly dealing with Microsoft, and we're fixing that. So deal with it for now, knowing that you're in the right place for the right things. My name is Rich Fowler. I am part of the Progressus Advanced Projects partner team. I work with both our Stratos Cloud Alliance partners as well as other partners who are not necessarily part of the Stratos Cloud Alliance. If you have interest in being part of the Stratos Cloud Alliance, you are welcome to do so, and we'll get you to the right people, but it's not required in order to sell Progressus. Also going to introduce Tasha Anspaugh here in a little bit. She's the one going to be doing all of the actual product learning, and this is a product learning exercise. You're going to listen to me for just a few minutes as we set the stage of where things are and why we do what we do and where it came from, but not much of that, because you care about what it matters to you, and that's what we want to care about as well. So again, welcome to everybody. Excuse me, one housekeeping item, because we have partners here from all over the world and about 12 different organizations. As you ask questions or if you're putting something in the chat, please refrain from doing anything that is customer specific. Don't include your customer name. Don't include other things. We don't want this to, I said something I shouldn't have, and I broke the NDA I have with my customer. We don't want to do that because you have multiple partners from multiple parts of the world. So respect your customer, respect that NDA. Just keep it. Feel free to ask the question, but keep it a generic question, not a pointed question with the customer's name and stuff in it. And we'll remind you of that as we go through, so not a big deal. The landscape of where we are. So number one, many folks on this call have had very little exposure to Progressus Advanced Projects. So what is Progressus Advanced Projects? What do we do? We are the add-in for Business Central, and we only work with Business Central, that adds advantages to Business Central jobs functionality. And we talk about adding advantages to jobs because we never want to downgrade Business Central. Without Business Central, we can't sell or implement Progressus. It has to have Business Central on the back end. So that's the first piece of actual knowledge is, yes, it has to have Business Central. It has to be on top of Business Central. Does not matter if it's Business Central Essentials or Premium. It's just Business Central is the backbone, and we'll get into all of that here in a little bit. But it adds functionality to Business Central that just plain doesn't exist today. So we add some specific functionality in things like project creation and project management, flexible project budgeting, and that's where we shine in many cases, and that's Tasha's excitement, is talking about the budgeting and the planning, mobile time and mobile expense entry, some of which is not available in BC without us, and then billing and invoicing options that are specific to the professional services industry, and we'll talk about that in a second. So what we used to talk about, and we still talk about, how Progressus extends Business Central in those areas that I just mentioned. For you folks, you guys can get even more deep into the product. So some of those BC added pieces of functionality, The project creation, the setup wizards, those are things that make life easier if you're coming off of one of the legacy products, or if your customer's coming off of one of the legacy products and they know how difficult it was to set up a project in GP project accounting or in SL. You can do it in Progressus Advanced Projects in under 2 minutes, and Tasha's going to show you that. Extending BC with unlimited budgeting options and unlimited planning options, where BC gives you one, we give you an unlimited number. So that exponentially opens up the opportunity that your customer has to do the what ifs and the planning budgets and the quarterly budgets and the change orders and all the things that need to happen in a project-based business. We talked about expense reports. We talked about mobility. We give you the ability to do Outlook, calendar, and email time entry. That's a game changer. Tasha's going to show you that one. Power BI project dashboards, again, game changers. Give people the data that they need. It's live, it's real time, it's on their phone, it's in picture format. They can get what they need, as well as getting down into the details of the actual numbers when they need it. And then billing and invoicing options that matter, some real differences, some real advantages, extensions of Business Central that we add that Business Central does not. So percent complete billing. Many project-based companies need percent complete billing. We add that. Retention and holdback specific to things like construction companies and other folks that are doing, holding back a percentage of the invoice until project completion. Pay when paid often comes into subcontractor conversations. So do you want to wait until, do I pay you after I've been paid? Those kinds of things we can handle. Subscription billing in some of our verticals, I'm going to talk about in a second. Our subscription billing options, and we have multiple, can make it very simple. If you're very simple, or if you're more complex, can simplify the complex. Very simple to do. Tasha's going to show you both options, and you'll be the expert on both of those very quickly. We have a full contract and subcontract module. That's a huge difference, a huge addition to Business Central. And then just released, now we have the ability to do multi-company projects in Progressus with Business Central. Has not been available until just very recently. Now we have it available, and that opens up, especially to those SL, GP, and NAV customers who have been used to doing multi-company projects. You've got a person in company A that needs to do the work, but it's actually billed out of company B. Maybe it's a division inside of another division. You have that ability now with Progressus to do those multi-company projects. Other things on the right side, rate tables and cost structures by project. We extend that functionality, some specifics on revenue recognition and work in process, and you will soon be the experts on work in process, so that's exciting. And two other things, PO creation from the project plan, that's a big thing. Project-based permission sets. You get into BC and you start talking about permission sets, and sometimes it's difficult and sometimes it's not. And if you've done any BC, you understand that. We add project-based permission sets to make that a lot easier. And then also released in the last month, Gantt charting. Gantt charts that are two-way with Progressus and BC, that you can do the drag and drop the slide, and it does affect your budgets and your plans within Business Central. So that's another game changer, along with multi-company projects. Other game changers that are on the way. This is a published roadmap. This is something you can talk about with your customers, with the folks that you're talking to. We've already done the contracts module, talked about that. That relates to the entire professional services market. We've done the updates for 365 BC as part of their April release. We're in the process. We've released some. We've got more to go on the mid-2021 inventory enhancements, specifically aimed at systems integrators, IT professionals, and architect and engineering firms that often need inventory associated with their projects, and to be able to cost those inventory items out against the project as part of the project. I know Scott and a few others very excited about the AIA billing for the construction market. That comes out momentarily. I know we're finishing up testing on that right now. I can hear you cheering from here, Scott. AIA billing finishing testing right now. That will hopefully be out very, very soon. A couple other things that also open up some markets for Business Central and Progressus. The API interfaces for Jira and Azure DevOps. Those integrations are done. And now you have the ability, when you're dealing with a software company or a development company or a division within a development company that does, or a division within a company that does software development, you can now do single entry versus double entry, taking the information out of Jira and DevOps and dumping that directly into Progressus and BC without having to make them rekey anything. Any of my developers on the call should be cheering about now, because that applies to us as well. And then later this year, some project and resource management stuff that will pertain to the entire professional services market. Allocation features that have been requested by both our SL and our GP legacy customers. Those relate specifically to government contracting, but on the GP side, GP does some very specific WIP functions that we're mimicking so that we can make those customers even more comfortable as they come to Progressus and BC off of GP. Something I'm not going to talk about here, but if you have interest in it, we also have the SL overlay. So talking about making customers comfortable coming to BC. Progressus has produced an SL overlay that will, and it's it's on AppSource, and it changes terminology and it adds some functionality that makes SL customers a lot more comfortable moving from Dynamics SL to Business Central with Progressus. And then a lot of other stuff relating to WIP. Now, one of the things that we talk about, and you are a huge part of this, whether you're in the consulting or the development side, is we need to listen to our customers and our partners in order to accelerate this roadmap even faster. So to that end, we have added an ideas portal. Now that ideas portal can be found here. It is just that. It's a portal where you as a partner can go in and say, okay, we know the product does this, this, and this. However, I really want the product to do this extra piece, or it would be great if it did it this way. Whatever your ideas are, if that's something, whether it's for you personally, whether it's something you think would be great, whether your customer has asked for it, drop it in the ideas portal. You'll have an access login. If you don't already, ask Tasha, she can get that for you. And we want your ideas. Those are looked at on a regular basis by the Progressus development teams, and both the things that are voted up. So if we've got multiple partners saying, hey, I saw Scott's idea on this and I really liked it, yeah, I'm going to vote that up. Or if it's something that we go, oh my gosh, that would be valuable to multiple markets, and we could add that to the product and take out a competitor or many other things. Put them in. We value your opinion. You are our ears to the street, and we want to know what your customers are telling you. So add those things to the ideas portal. We do value your opinion. With that being said, let's talk about the landscape of where Business Central and Progressus lives right now. So on Business Central, they started out thinking about the legacy customer, the GP, the SL, the NAV legacy customers. Then they started talking about the net new customers, and then conquest customers, folks like the QuickBooks of the world and the Intax of the world, how to address taking those customers and bringing them back into Business Central. One of the things they learned is that Progressus Advanced Projects is a big piece of that. So we've had some success in that, and we've got some customer milestones that talk about that success. So as we talk about the customers we have worldwide, we've got 50 paying. Now we have more than that. This was done last week, and we've since added some, but we have more than 50 paying customers worldwide. We have more than 2,500 users worldwide. When I talk about worldwide, I mean just that, on 3 continents in 9 countries. We have 8 integrations built to other pieces of software, whether that is the Jira and the DevOps that I talk about, whether that's the integration to Concur that is available, whether that's the integration to Payroll Now. All of those things you're going to get into as part of this boot camp, but we have integrations to other things. So my developer friends on the call, there's opportunity for you across the board. You see 8, I'd like to add a 0 to the end of that and have 80 integrations, so that no matter what the customer says, hey, we're working with X already, the answer is X equals yes, let's do that. And a nod to our development team, we're on release 6.4. We're about to put out 6.5. There have been multiple releases over the last several years as the product continues to improve. And I can honestly say the product is better now than it's ever been. So it's an exciting time to be part of the Progressus Partner Channel. Why Progressus Advanced Projects? Well, two reasons really: to help bolster Business Central and to increase your opportunity, both with Business Central as well as with Progressus across the board. And when I say your, I mean your, whether it's a sales opportunity, whether it's a consulting opportunity, or whether it's the development opportunities. The opportunities are there across the board. And we need to understand that. And the better you understand it, the better you can take advantage of it. So let's talk about the opportunity. If you're not familiar with Business Central pricing, it's very inexpensive. Business Central, $70 a full user and $8 a team member. Progressus rides on top of that license. We can add, our product comes in bundles. The smallest bundle is 25 users for $500 a month. Very inexpensive if you start there with a small company. Our opportunity, if I'm a partner, I can double my profits because I can double my margin simply by adding Progressus to that Business Central deal that this professional services company needs anyway. Double your consulting revenue. So instead of just Business Central, now you're adding Progressus Advanced Projects for Business Central to go with it. That's why my consultants are in this meeting, because you need to know how to double that consulting revenue. Certainly we can do it for you, but don't you want that money? Probably. And on the development side, double your development opportunity. There are obviously opportunities within Business Central to develop connectors and products and IP. Well, let's double that by adding Progressus to that and giving you an even wider universe of things that you can tie to, and your creativity has no bounds. So now we can double across the board, bolster and build your business, whether that's your partner business or your personal business, consulting, developing, sales, with Progressus and Business Central. And then let's talk about verticals, because we want to make sure that we are thinking vertically. For those that aren't familiar with the vertical versus horizontal concept, a horizontal sale is something, I get a lead and it's anything, anywhere. Maybe I can sell it, maybe I can't. Maybe it's manufacturing, maybe it's projects, maybe it's customer service, maybe it's something else. That is the majority of the Business Central partner world. 3 in 4 claim to be a horizontal partner. Only 1 in 4 claims to have a vertical specialization. That makes you the subject matter expert in that vertical. And what we want is we want you to be the SME, the subject matter expert in whatever vertical you choose and you're good at. And sometimes it takes an outside eye to look at your customer base or your knowledge base and say, hey, you may not realize it, but you have a vertical in X. So we have a couple of partners that one has a vertical in waste management. It's a very specific vertical. It's not $6.7 billion a year in opportunity. It's a fraction of that, but they're the only one that does it. And they're good at it. And when you're good at it, it adds to the things that we're trying to do with Business Central and Progressus. Increase the ease of the sale, the implementation, and increase the speed of both. Business Central is a numbers game. We want to make sure that the sales happen quickly, the implementations happen quickly and efficiently. The more you do the same kind of an implementation, the better you are at it, the more you can anticipate the problems that are coming up, the more you can anticipate and avoid the potholes that are on their way. And then your profits go up. If you're doing things like fixed fee, if I'm doing a fixed fee across the board, I need to know that I can do it and that I've done it before and that I can do it well. So the more we do it, the more we do it well, the more we get efficient at it, and the more we get good at it, the more the profits rise. The fixed fee doesn't have to, but the cost can go down. And then for my development team, we talk about ease and speed. Now you can create some personal or partner IP for your vertical. And whether that's a set of reports or whether that's a couple of connectors or whether that's a piece of functionality that is specific to your world, you can put that on AppSource if you choose, but you also don't have to, and you can be the go-to partner for that type of business. So whether that's a training company and you say, yep, I'm going to excel in the training world, that's going to be my subject matter expertise. I'm going to have a vertical in training, and you build some IP that is specific to training. So maybe it's the reports that they need, or maybe it's some specific functionality or terminology or things that are specific to that vertical. You're now the person, you're the folks. So when whether it's the Stratus Cloud has a lead that says, hey, this is a training opportunity, and we know we have an excellent partner that has a vertical in training, bingo, that's an easy call. And then people come to you. So refer partners to build vertically, because that's going to set you apart from every other Business Central partner that's out there, and it's going to make you the subject matter expert, both of which are huge advantages to you. So why do I bring that up? Because we've got some industries that Progressus is built for that can make you the SME. So consulting and engineering companies make up 60% of our current customer base. 37% on the consulting side, 23 on the engineering side. 60% of our customer base means that we're good at it. The reports, the billing, the options fit, and you can be that just by being a Progressus partner and knowing the product. Being successful in this boot camp, you can be the SME on those two verticals. Software development up to about 15% in the last week of our customer base is a software development house or division. And now we added the Jira, now we added the Azure DevOps, making life easier for those folks. Bingo. That's a very easy, much easier sale than a horizontal partner going in going, yeah, we don't know much about development houses, but we can sure try. Fantastic, but not as good as somebody that says, yes, not only do I know about it, I am one and I'm the subject matter expert. And here's what we talk about. Bingo, you're the people. Add in things like technology integrators, healthcare companies, specifically to clinical trials. We've got about 10% in our healthcare division. So they do clinical trials, they do a lot of fun stuff. Communications, we've got just shy of 10% in the communications world. So there are some successes in Progressus that matter to you as you think about the verticals and where your subject matter expertise comes in. Think about these 6 or 7 things. Now let's talk about the plan. And I'm just 2 or 3 slides away from being done. So the plan is to make you the SME, be the SME. So have a successful boot camp here. We need you to be successful in this. I need you to be present. So don't be doing 3 other things while you're doing this, or you will not catch the material. It won't be a successful boot camp and you'll be doing it again. Be persistent. Follow the homework, follow the videos, follow the instructions Tasha gives you, and you will be the SME. But if you're not present and you're not persistent, you're not going to be successful. And we don't have time for that. So let's be successful. Let's get a plan together. So Stratos Cloud members, your PDM has all the tools to help you get that plan together, whether that's to find a vertical, to excel in your vertical, or to exploit your vertical. Any of those things can happen. If you're not a member of the Stratos Cloud Alliance, we can help you with that as well. Let's get a plan together and get it together. And as we get the plan together, part of that plan is going to be setting up your next prospect so you can apply the knowledge you learn in this boot camp to your next prospect. And we'll approach them together. There is a unified plan of action. There are steps to success on the partner portal. It's all laid out for you. We want you to be successful, and we want to help you be successful from the start through the finish, because the goal is twofold. The goal is to get a new customer and to make that new customer the happiest customer we have to date. Those are the goals. So we want to get there together. What to expect in this boot camp. So every day, today and every day, expect it to go fast. We are going to go fast. You are going to need to be present. You're going to need to be persistent. Tasha moves quickly, as do I. You've got 90 minutes of live learning every Tuesday at 11:30 Eastern. It is full product immersion. These are the only slides you're likely to see. It's not slides, it is in the product. Now, after that 90 minutes, you will have an optional 30-minute question and answer session after the boot camp session, which is why right now, everybody should be on mute. The Teams meeting that we are all attending, the chat window is live for everybody. So if you have questions, if you have things that you need to know, drop it in there. It will be available to be viewed by everybody. We'll get back to you and everybody with answers to those questions as you drop them into the chats. Because of the speed that we're going to be flying through this with, Tasha's not going to have time to answer questions on a one-off in front of the whole group. It's going to be rock and roll. It's exciting. For those that have done boot camp before, this we've had it in multiple different flavors. We've had a 3-day in person, which is now impossible with COVID. So we've had an 8-week, similar to this kind of session, which tends to be too long. So we've knocked this down to 4 weeks of intensive, aggressive learning, and we hope this is going to be successful for you, because our goal is to make you successful and to double everything you're doing. Double your profits, double your consulting, double your development. We want you to be successful across the board. So with that, let me introduce your instructor for the day. Your sensei is Tasha Anspaugh. She is our pre-sales lead. She's our support lead. She's our training lead, and she will be your source of wisdom for the next 4 weeks. So, Miss Tasha.
Hello. I like the panda. He makes me happy. Thank you for that. All right, guys. I apologize if you have not talked to me previously. I talk very fast. I will, again, this is being recorded. So go ahead. Feel free to go back to the recording if needed. Like I said, we will also have this we're going to have the QA call after this one. It is a separate Teams meeting, so feel free to join there and we can do a little bit more one-on-one if you need specific help with something. Or again, everybody has my email. Feel free to email me and we can work through whatever problems you're having. All right. So I am going to go ahead and start going through some of the stuff that I had covered in week 1 of the homework. Hopefully everybody was able to get into the Stratus portal and they were able to start going through those videos. I'm going to assume that everybody already has their BC instance up. This is AppSource. So this is where you can see all of the extensions. They have tons and tons and tons of extensions out here. So if you go out and you search for Progressus, you will see we have quite a few out here. There's the data migration, there's also the Power Pack, and then we have the 3 versions with the localization absence in them as well. So generally we're always with US, me for training purposes, but we do have a European version and a Canadian version both. And those are strictly, you're just going to come out, search for Progressus, you're going to click on it, and you're going to do the free trial. Trial access does not have any limited capabilities. With this free trial, you're going to be able to get all of the access that you would have with the full version of Progressus. So once you have the product installed through AppSource, one thing I get asked a lot of questions about for some reason is you can always check the deployment status here. You can see where everything is at. You can also see all of the deployments that have happened inside of your instance here as well. So once it's installed, then we need to get in there and we need to install demo data. So demo data is going to be kind of the hub of how I'm going to work with everybody and show you how things are supposed to work. So this is a new company. I don't have demo data in here yet, so hopefully I don't run into any issues because I'm just going to roll through this with everybody else. In order to do this, we're just going to do assisted setup. And then once you open this guy up, if it decides to work with me. Cloud software, guys. All right, possibly. Okay. So now let's go back into our assisted setup. And then we are going to look for the Progressus test data. So we're going to click on that. And this is going to install all of our demo data for us. We're going to hit next. And for what type of company, you're going to want to use software development. This is going to give you the most projects. It's going to give you resources. It's going to give you all of the information that you need in order to work through this and do some actual user testing with it. General product posting group, generally I stick with services. We do setting up for the posting group. Invoices, so this is just going to be the default. This is not how every single project in your system is going to have to run. This is just going to be your default demo data. And this is what your projects are going to default to. For this exercise, for our boot camp, I suggest turning on that users can approve their own time and expenses, just so that way we don't run into errors. But in a normal system, most users won't be able to approve their own expenses. When time is approved, does it post to the project ledger? I'm going to go ahead and leave that off so that way I can walk through the journal process with everybody. And then use time and expense journals. This is a new feature that we've added. We actually have specific journals just for time and expense now. Previously, they were all in one journal. Next question, do we want to create resource groups? Yes, please. It'll help with that so we don't have to manually go in and create all of them. And then just your unit cost. So what do you want your standard unit cost to be for PMs? Cost is how much it costs the company per hour. Sales price, what are we charging for the sale or for the project managers? Unit cost for a time and material user. And then sales price, so what do we charge for a standard TE user? And then when do we want our time entry to start? So when do we want the time periods to begin? I would suggest doing today. You can just put a T in there and it'll default to today's date, or do something in the recent area, this week, this month, something recent. Otherwise, you could run into issues with your timesheets if you have a bunch of old ones in there that haven't been used. Task templates, we say yes to that. And then we're going to hit finish. Once it does this, it's going to go through and it's actually pushing all of that data into the system for us. When you do this, sometimes there's an error that pops up. This one, the user setup does not exist. So this is basically saying, hey, this user doesn't exist in the system. So if you just hit OK up here, you're going to hit the little looking glass. You're going to do user setup. Once you come in here, this is going to allow you to set your user ID, since I am admin in this company. And then I am going to pick the resource that I'm associated with. For standard demo data, before we create our own resources, I suggest you use Bill Arden. He is a project manager and a project executive, so you'll be able to do everything in the system with that. You're also going to want to make sure this resource administrator box is checked marked. This lets you go in and make changes to resources in the system. This will allow you to see cost, prices, do everything that is that involves a resource inside of the system. So you can generate time periods, everything else, and you won't run into any problems there. So I'm going to hit back and then we're going to hit finish again, and that should get all of our demo data in there. And then once we do this, we can look at the role centers that are in here. With advanced projects, we actually have added 5 additional role centers into the system that are all project related. So I have my demo data, and now I am going to go into my settings and I'm going to look at the role. So I'm going to change my role in the company right now. When I'm changing my role, it's just changing the look and the feel of the homepage that I land on. So we have added the accounting manager. We've added the line manager, which is a person's direct supervisor, someone who can make approvals for time and expense if they're just a direct supervisor. There's also the project executive. You can think of that as the super user of the project world, project manager, and then a standard time and expense user. If you go through all of these in your own demo tenant, you'll see that there is a significant difference. Everything on the page is going to change depending on what the role is. So I'm going to log in as a project executive. So that way I have access to see everything. And once I hit OK, it's going to refresh my screen and it's going to take me over to the project executive role center. So now I'm here, and as you can see, there is a significant difference from what was on the screen previously. So I have my projects, I have resources, journals, time and expense, posted documents, invoicing, the contracts module, and then I also have the subcontracts module down here as well. So this is everything project related. Anything that a project executive or a project manager could need is going to be sitting on this page for them. So there are numerous different ways of setting permissions in the project or in the system. So the very first one that I want to make sure I point out is in the user menu. And then this is we're going to assign permissions to this specific user. So if I come into my admin, which is who I'm logged in as, you can come down here and you can see that I have different project executive settings. So I already have these settings in my system. But you may need to come in and add in your permission sets for your user. If you drill down into a new line, you can search for Progressus. Maybe. Let me just do this. There we go. So you can see all of the Progressus software ones. We do have purchasing, time and expense, WIP, all of the different areas. So you can actually assign not just a project executive, but maybe you just want them to have access to a subcontract. So you could give them just subcontract permissions. And then you can build them that way as well. So it is completely flexible with those user setup permissions. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there. So once you have your user set up, once you have your user tied to a resource, once you have all of that done, we should be able to go in and start running through the setup menu. So the setup menu, it is pretty intense. There is a lot of information in here, but once this initial setup is done, it does take quite a while to set up. However, once this is done, you're done setting it up. It's pretty simple to get through everything, and it flows pretty seamlessly after this initial piece is done with. One thing I do want to point out is this app registration. App registration, it's going to have your app ID in here. This is going to be specifically important for some reason. If you're in your demo tenant and you start getting error messages about the application being shut off, we're going to need this tenant ID. This is what we go by here. So make sure you have that information. And then also, please register your product. I think I've already registered my Progressus. However, I have AR collections, which is also another Plumline solution. But I can do AR collections. You're just going to register your app. So we'll learn more. And it'll walk you through how to actually register your application. The Progressus one is exactly the same way. You just run through the registration real quick. And when you do that, please put something meaningful in there. I'm not the one who looks at that. I believe that's a sales Rich Fowler thing. But make sure you put something in there. Make sure you have your real name in there. Make sure you have an actual, put your name in the company name. Just give us a little bit of information so we know whose tenant is actually whose, and we don't just shut them off randomly.
It's actually becoming an automated thing. So
Okay.
yeah, if it says mod admin 1297422 at on Microsoft.com, it will automatically shut down on the last day. If it says something else, they'll come to us and say, hey, is this a partner you're working with? So yes, put something meaningful there.
All right. So next, we are going to start with this setup menu. So I am going to go into the project setup menu, and we're just going to kind of talk through these. Again, this is very quick, so I apologize if I go too fast. But this is our project setup menu. So this is the hub of everything. So here we have our number series. This is just a standard number series. How do you want things numbered? The next section is going to be your invoicing. So what is the general product posting group going to be for all of your scheduled billings? So all of your payments, you need to select a general product posting group here. I can send everybody a link. If you don't know about posting groups in Business Central, please let me know and I will send you a link that explains them beautifully. Posting groups are a big thing that I know a lot of people coming from other products have to wrap their head around. So if you need that information or you have questions, please reach out to me and I'll get that information to you. So the general product posting group for payments or scheduled billings, you're going to select that here. It's always going to default to that. Invoice rounding precision, and then the summary line for sales. So what do you want the summary lines to look like? Do you want it to be all or do you want it to be summary only? All of this information does have really nice tooltips that will walk you through every single thing and what they mean. Payment plan value. This one is a big deal. What do you want those payment plans to be? So if you have scheduled billings and you are going to do more than one scheduled billing, if you're going to do more than one repetition, make sure you always have this set to repetition period. Otherwise, they will not show up on your project plan. I've run into this with a couple other customers. They had it set to none, and it doesn't show up on their budget if you have it set to none. Also, use sales account when applying invoice. This is going to use the purchase account instead of the sales account from your general posting setup. So this is in regards to your expenses. Generally, that we always leave on just so that way your expenses post the way that they're supposed to. And then all of these are just your standard defaults. So what do you want your defaults to be for your projects? We selected time and material when we set it up. However, you can do fixed or percent to complete, and we will get into the billing, I believe, in week 3. We'll walk through all of the different billing types and what exactly all of those settings mean. The WIP, do you want to allow change entries? Generally, yes, because if you are running WIP in your system, it's going to completely change. You're going to have to create reversing entries. So generally, yes, you're going to want those to be on. Capacity, again, this is just default. What do you want those capacity screens to look like? Number of years, we don't want to go more than 2 years, and we want to look at it by the week. You can look at it by day, and this is just going to determine what the screens look like when you open them, but you can change them on the screen as well. Down here, this one is also pretty important if you're using time and expense. The very first option is approver can edit time. There's a lot of companies that will not allow the approver to enter or change the time on the timesheet. They need to reject it and the resource to fix it. However, if you just want your resources to be able to change the time when they're approving, you can turn this on and then the approvers can do that. Use time journal for time. If you have this off, time is going to go to the project journal. If you have it on, it's going to use our new time journal feature. For right now, while we're doing the transition to the new time journal, we still have the project journal. However, you can turn this off and on if you need to. The next one is post when approving time. So do you want it to automatically post to the project, or do you want it to go to a time journal and then somebody else can approve it and post it from there? It's kind of another approval layer. So a lot of times we have our customers that will approve it, and then accounting has to go in and post the journal. And that's the final layer of approval because it can still be pushed back after it's in the journal. Auto update dimensions, generally, yes, you always want to auto update those dimensions unless you're not using dimensions. Again, if you have questions on dimensions, please reach out to me. I can send you some information on those and how dimensions work inside of the system. Dimensions are basically sub accounts for your GL. And then the next one that I want to talk about is the post time entries to GL. If you have this turned on, you have to do project labor posting. This is going to post your time entries automatically to your general ledger when you're approving them and they're posting to the project. If you don't want time to post to GL, this needs to be turned off. There's the same questions over here for expenses. Do you want to use expense journal? Do you want to post when approving? Use default mileage rates? You can enter all that information in here, and then you can also put in your PDF viewer URL. So if you don't want to download PDFs out of the system, you can use a PDF viewer. Create project. This is just your standard posting group that's going to be in the system. Qualification. This is a new feature that we will be adding in the future. It's going to be just qualifications based upon resources. So we're going to ignore that one for right now. However, we do have the management tab. There's a few that I want to point out. We have enhanced dimensions. So enhanced dimensions, there is a document regarding enhanced dimensions and how all of those will flow through the system using this. But you can determine if you want to have these on or not. And then the next one is price cost not found. So you can control the response that the system actually gives you. If a resource has a 0 cost applied to it, or you forgot to put a resource cost in, you can have it actually give you an error message so you're not posting those to the project without addressing the cost and prices on there. You can have it give you a warning, or you can just have it put in there a 0. A lot of times though, if you do not have a price set up for a specific resource on a specific project, it won't charge you, the customer, for those hours. So a lot of times our customers want that error message saying, hey, there's no price. You need to enter something before you can approve this time. So this just kind of gives you control over that error message type. And then subcontract, the other stuff, it's not really that important right now. However, subcontract, this is going to be all of your email setup. So these are going to be all of the emails that are going to go out with your subcontracts. And then there's also the project alerts. So project alerts, these are also emails that are going to go out, and you can come in here and you can put pictures in. So that way, if something is over budget, close to budget, or good, it'll have the little stoplight system in here. So that is the standard project setup. However, once you do that, there's project posting groups. So the project posting groups, again, I will send all the information, but this just allows you to change all of your GL accounts based upon what you select on the project. This is all your capitalization. This is your WIP fixed account, your cost of goods account, your adjustments. Everything is in here, and you can set these accounts up, and you can select a different posting group based upon the projects that you have. We also have work types. Work types just gives you another way to bill your projects if needed. Excuse me. So work types, we can think of that as travel, half rate, no bill. You can set all of these up, and then you can assign rates to go with them for all of your projects. Cost types is just going to be a way that you can categorize your expenses, if it's an expense, an asset, whatever the case may be. Project codes is going to go along with a subcontract module. Billing cycle, this is where you're going to set up all of the billing cycles that you want in the system. This is, again, just something that you can select and you can enter on a project. If you bill weekly, then you can filter out invoices. When you're generating invoices, you can filter them out by weekly, not, or semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, however you're billing your customers. You can set up that billing cycle and tag that to the project, so those will only bill during that time period. Tax posting setup, this will allow us to have different ship to codes for each individual project and task. So all of the projects and tasks, if there's a different shipping code, that was one of the things, that's the reason why we added this. Some tasks happen in different areas, so different tax rates need to be assigned to those. So this allows you to set those up for each one of those shipping groups, those task codes. The next screen, we're going to go down to items and expenses. So with this is a full expense tracking for your resources. So you can come in, you can set up your expenses. So different expense types. If you have hotels, meals, mileage, parking, tolls, you can come in, you can edit this, and you can actually see all the information in here. It does keep track of the total cost and the total price that has been spent in this area. And you can also do the profit calculation here as well. So standard cost for this hotel is $100. And then we have our profit calculation. So price equals cost. You can do a percentage over, you can do an amount or a fixed price. You can also change these for each individual project as well, which I believe we're getting to next week. So all of these are in here. You'll notice if I change this to a fixed price, this window opens up and now I can edit it. So if I wanted to say every time there's a hotel, it's going to be charged a fixed price of $150. So that's our expense card. However, we also have expense payment types. So I know I'm jumping around to this menu, but it'll make sense, I promise. So the expense payment types is how these expenses are being made. So we have a couple in here. The employee paid AP. So I'm going to grab this one. This is going to be an employee paid expense. So if an employee is submitting their expense sheet and they paid for it out of their pocket and you use accounts payable to repay them, you're going to do expense payment, you're going to do resource paid, and then expense posting. If you put AP, that's going to create an AP document for this resource. If you do GL, there will not be any AP document created. It'll just create the GL transaction. So it won't actually create the check for you to repay your resource. It'll just make a GL entry. So you can do payroll, you can do company paid, all of these different things. And the combinations between this and this will determine what it's going to do after it's approved and posted. So resource paid AP is what we see most of the time. We also see company paid GL and company paid AP. Company paid AP would be on a company credit card. So if you have a company credit card and you want your resources to track those transactions, they can put in their company paid credit card transactions and it'll automatically create that workflow for them for all those company card transactions. So once you have your expenses and you also have your expense payment types, you have to create expense posting setup for those combinations. So if you do not want your resources to be able to buy certain expenses, you don't create the combination and then they will not be able to enter those. So here you can see I have a hotel. It is company paid AP. So this would be with a company credit card. And then I have my debit expense account. I have my credit card expense debit. So if it's GL, you're going to have your debit account and then you're also going to have your GL offset. You can also put in a credit card account there as well. But most of the time, if it's employee paid AP, it's only going to have a debit account attached to it. This will allow you to put these transactions into different GL accounts for different posting reasons. So this, again, if you don't have these combinations set up during the approval process, it will tell you that there's no project expense posting. So you can't actually approve or put these transactions through the entire system until the combination is created. So you can either reject it or come create the combination. That's probably one of the biggest things that I see when we have cases come in through support, is when their expense sheets, they're getting those error messages that say it's not set up. So with expenses, I mentioned credit cards quite a few times. You can set up all your company credit cards in here. So you'll pick the credit card code, the vendor that you want to tie this to, the last four, and then you can also assign these to a specific resource in the system. So once you do all this, you can actually have it just automatically pull that information in for the resource. We do have item prices and expense prices as well. Like I said, we'll get to those. But items and expenses, everything can have their own specific price for a project, work type, task code, however granular you want to get with it. Journal batches, again, just what kind of batches do you want for your journals? These are just templates for those. I'm not going to get into that too much today, but we have task templates, I'm sorry. And this is kind of the hub of the entire, this is what makes us great. We have templates for everything. So if I come all the way down here, I'm going to start with my project templates. So project templates allow you to create a template that your project managers can grab, and it'll automatically put all this information into the project for them. This is helping to eliminate that human error. So that way project managers don't grab the wrong posting group. That way they don't grab the wrong invoicing type. It's going to put all of this information into the project. So that way all they have to do is grab this one time and it'll populate everything for them. You'll notice down here, it has the budget information. It has all of their WIP settings, which I don't even want to think about that right now, but we will go over all that. And I know this is one of the big things with accounting. You know, accounting says, well, I want these specific WIP settings. How do I make sure that my project manager always uses these ones? Well, you set it up this way. That way, all they have to do is grab a standard template. It'll put that information on for them. So that way something doesn't get missed. So once you set all of these up, again, all they have to do is grab it and it'll be done. The next one that I want to point out is our task template. The task template is going to be your work breakdown structure. So the work breakdown structure is going to make your life easier. Generally, a customer is going to do somewhat of the same type of projects every time. They are going to create their projects, and they can actually create these templates from something that they've already created in a project, or they can come in and do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. So if we have this is a test case, let's go ahead and throw this one in here. And then we're going to go to template lines. This is going to be every single template line or task line that's put inside of the task. Be categorized by number. So you're going to want to put these in chronological order, or have some type of scheme to them if you want to do any type of indenting or totaling with them. So we have the code, we have the task type, and then there's a couple fields on here that are pretty important. I know that we will get into all of these, so it'll make more sense, I promise, later on. But this is one field that I want to make sure I point out. This is the pre-order field. If you check mark this box, you can actually have your resources book time to this while it's in the quote status. That is specifically important for if it is a large RFP. We get this question a lot. I have a large RFP. My sales team is spending a lot of time doing this, and I want to track how long it takes to make sure that time is added into the project. Check the pre-order box. They can book time to it while it's in the quote status, so that way you can keep track of all of those costs during the process as well. But again, you can come in, you can enter all of your information in here. We can enter all of our tasks, all of the things that we have to do. So if this is stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then anytime that a project manager is going to use this type of project again, all they have to do now is say, I want to use this task template, and it'll automatically load all of these task lines onto their project for them. So those are task templates. There's quite a few other types of templates in here. We have invoices. I have a whole module on that we'll go over. Contracts. Contracts are it used to be our main projects. If you have done this before and you've heard me talk before, main projects have transitioned into contracts. So now we can do actual contracts and link all of our projects up to a main contract. The sales price template, this will allow us to create pricing structures. I get that question a lot as well. So if you have different pricing structures for your customers, you can come in, you can select the code. So if this is, a gold level customer, I have my gold level customer, I go to the template lines and I can associate different costs for this specific customer. And then anytime I grab this template, it's automatically going to put those costs and prices assigned to that project. So again, templates, we're trying to eliminate the human error and trying to save time. That's the biggest thing. These templates will save time inside of the actual system. So the next one, budget setup. So the different budget versions. This, again, how we are super different. We give an unlimited number of budget versions. We have people that use them for forecasting monthly. We have people that do a quote budget version, and then they transition the quote into an original. And you can actually go back and look at all of these and do budget comparison reports to see where your project was at the beginning versus where it's at now. You can also use them for change orders. So change orders are another way that we can use budgets. Budgets are used for just about everything in the system. And when I say budget, it doesn't mean just, putting some numbers in. It's budgeting the cost, it's budgeting the price, revenue, and it's also budgeting your resources. That is going to also contribute to the schedule and creating that schedule for the resources to do their time. So not only are you assigning a cost to the project, you're assigning an individual resource as well. All right. We also have budget setup. This will tie your project budgets to a GL budget. So we see this a lot with the nonprofit organizations. They run completely off of grants. So a budget, they'll do a project budget, and that will actually feed their general ledger budget because they have strict numbers that they have to stay within. We've had this question a lot, and this is one of those ways that you would actually be able to use this function and tie those two together. Pipeline. This feeds in with the mini CRM / opportunity module inside of BC. It's informative. It just gives you another way to track these projects, see where things are at, and what the probability of you using or getting the project is. You can use the income analysis to be able to track this information as well. And I am so sorry, my allergies are acting up. They're tearing up the fields behind my house right now. All right, so the next one is the resource setup. This one is pretty large. So we have our resource setup screen. Really, the main thing here is this resource number series. This is going to auto number all of your resources when you create them, or you can give them their own specific names. And then over here, I want to talk about these three options right here. If you have advanced projects, Progressus installed, make sure all of these are turned on, please. This will hide all of the base BC features inside of those screens. So that way there's no confusion between what's Progressus and what's BC. We sit directly on top of Business Central, so we utilize a lot of their tables. We utilize a lot of their screens. Resources is one of those areas. So we use the resource table. However, you need to make sure that we are using Progressus instead of base BC. So the base BC costs and prices screen is not the same as what we use. So this will hide the Business Central ones so that way you make sure that you're always using the correct fields. Next is mail notification. So this is for all of the emails that will go out to resources based upon their time and expenses. So we have email notifications that go out for everything. And if you actually come out here and you hit learn more, this will give you everything. And it'll actually give you all of those parameters for your time or for your email setup as well. So this is another great way to be able to get information. If you can't find something or you don't know what a field is, just always go to this learn more after you hover over the name, click on the learn more, and it'll take you to our help files. It's a lot easier than trying to figure it out on your own. But the help files are there. They're amazing. And we also have pretty good tooltips that'll walk you through and tell you just about what everything is. So the parameters in here, these are all different. And again, this help file will tell you what all of those mean. If you can't find them in there, let me know. I can send you that information too. But this is for emails if the timesheets don't go out on time, if timesheets are rejected, if timesheets are approved, same with expense, but this will give you all that information. It'll send emails out to those resources for you. The next one is norm time. So norm time is going to be what times do your resources normally work? So again, this is the setup portion of this. So generally our resources are 40 hours, 5 days a week. So if I assign this one and we click on norm time data, this will actually let us pick our resource, our start date, and then all of the days of the week that they could possibly work. So if some resources work different dates, different times, you can put this in here. This is actually going to help with their capacity, and this is going to show how many hours each resource is available per day. So that is our norm time, and the norm time gets fed into all of the other fields. These all kind of work together. So when you set one up, it'll kind of feed into the next screen that we're looking at. Next one is norm time exceptions. This one will pull norm time out. So we use this one a lot for holidays or vacation time. So let's say we need to put in 4th of July as a holiday. We would put in the date. If I don't put a resource code in, it's going to go ahead and go to all of them. And then I pick a norm time code that I need this associated to. I'm going to go ahead and pick my 40-5 everybody. And then here I just put what it is. And then the new norm time. So it's 0 hours. So instead of having 8 hours on that day, they're not going to have any. They're going to have 0 hours. So you're going to just go through and do this. That way you can see it when you're generating capacity for those resources. You can see when they're actually available. Norm working hours is just going to be for the normal hours that your resources are working. So if I do this for shifts, I could just go ahead, start time Monday, say it's first shift, 600, start and then stop time 1500. So, and this is military time. If you don't want to actually type the 3:00:00 p.m. a.m., just type in military time and it'll automatically feed in for you. But this will help with your budgeting if you need to be able to see what time resources are available. The next one is going to be the timesheet configuration. This controls everything regarding time and expenses. There's a whole bunch in here. No customer is ever going to have this many. Generally, I go through and delete all of them because I think it just kind of muddies up the water when you're looking at this many. So I suggest going through and deleting all of them. However, I'm going to create a new one real quick so I can walk you through and show you what everything is, because this is very important to the actual setup of the system. So we have our time configuration code. So what do you want to call it? So if this is just, your normal everyday, you would put in a description and then the starting day of the week. So what day do you want these time periods to start for your resource? We have Monday, Tuesday, whatever. Generally, I just pick a Monday. And then validate time versus norm time. So if you are using norm time and you have 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you could set it to where your resources have to enter at least that many hours per day on a project. So that would be minimum hours. Exact hours means that they can't put in anything over that 8 hours. If I do exact or minimum, I can use flex time in the system, which we will get to. But if I have none on, it's not going to validate the norm time at all, and you cannot use flex time. So I'm going to do minimum hours for this. And then also the next few questions, do you want to send an email alert? Send an email alert when timesheet's not submitted. This allows you flexibility to actually change who gets email alerts based upon the time configuration code that you select. So if you turn all these on, and then the norm time code, this is again how you're validating that. So it's the 40-5. And then the base unit of measure. So this is also going to flow into the resource. So we're going to do an hour. And then if there's any overtime, do you want to associate a cost factor onto any of those? And then earnings codes. This is my payroll information, so you probably won't have those on your screen. And then these are all for flex requests. So if you are using flex time, do you want to allow a negative balance? Do you want more than one flex request available? So they can put in addition or multiple flex time requests. And then you can also turn it on to where it automatically adds flex time if they go over their normal hours. There's also the send email to the first approver. So if I submitted my timesheet, my manager would automatically get a email when it was ready to approve. The next section is going to be timesheets. So the length of the period for this timesheet. You can do daily, weekly, split week, monthly, biweekly, and semi-monthly. Generally, I go with a weekly timesheet. It's easier. And then what do you want the detail level to be? With a weekly timesheet, you can do day or week. So if you want them to put in their hours every single day, you would pick day. Week is just going to be one bulk amount that they can put in one column. And then you can also require work type. So if you are specifically designating your prices based upon a work type, you can require that they enter that when they do their timesheets. And then do you want your resources to have to submit their timesheet for approval? If you say yes, more screens open up. And then you just pick who's going to approve it. So we have 3 layers of approval with time. First layer is the project manager. Second layer is the line manager. And the third layer is a project executive. So you can designate who or who does not approve for this specific timesheet. And then if you do project executive, you can pick the project executive that's going to be in charge of approving. So you could go ahead and say, okay, Ken Austin is the one who needs to approve all these. You can also put a custom message to come up when they submit their timesheet. So if you want resources to go back and make sure that they do something, or you want them to have some type of information, it'll put up a little blurb and say, hey, make sure that you have all of your invoice comments in, make sure whatever you want your resources to know, this message will pop up. Same thing down here under expenses. So I'm going to go ahead and close that guy. And then this one is, do you want to approve the expense sheet? If you turn it on to yes, the windows will, or the little windows will open up again. And then you can turn on who you need to recover or who you need to approve this timesheet or expense sheet. There's also emails over here if you want emails to go out for those expenses as well. But once you have all this done, we will actually assign it to a resource, and that's how all of this is going to feed over to the resource card and those timesheets. So once you have that all in there, we're going to go back over here to resource setup. Qualification types, again, I'm not going to go over that yet. This is future release coming. It's going to be great. But we have the project resource posting set up. If you have it turned on inside of your window or inside of your project setup to post to the general ledger, you have to have this filled out. If you don't have your project labor posting set up, it won't post to your general ledger and you're going to get error messages. With this, you need to have a start date. Generally, we just go with, the first of the year that you're implementing. And then a resource group. So your resources all have to be tied to resource groups in order for this to work. So you have your start date, you pick the resource group, and then you can assign a work type. If a specific work type needs to go to a different GL account, you can set that up. Or you can just say everybody who's an admin, it's going to go to my salaries account. My overtime is going to also go to, what accounts do I have in here? It's going to go to a different account. But you can go ahead and you can set all of these up depending on what they are. You'll also have your offset account. So what's our offset account? If it's, the accrued salaries and wages, that's going to be our offset. And then we're going to have our debit account as well. But again, you have to have all these, otherwise you will get error messages when you approve. And it won't let you actually finish the process out, and it won't go to the project or the general ledger until this is done. So that is the project labor posting. And again, this is only relevant if you have your project or if you have your time posting to general ledger in project setup. So that was our setup menu for resources, our budgets. We talked about templates, journals, items and expenses, and I believe we went through all of this. I do want to take a couple minutes though, real quick, just to talk about the other things that are on the screen for each one of these, and some basic navigation. So with this, you can actually link things here. So I know a lot of times if you're using a specific thing, so if I use sales invoices all the time and I always want my sales invoices to show, you can bookmark. So this is a great way to kind of customize your home screen yourself. So now you can come out here and you can see that I have sales invoices. Um, this is a way for you to kind of customize the screen to be exactly what you want it to be. You can also use the personalize feature. And personalize is going to let you move things around. So let's say invoicing, I care more about, so I want to move it over here. And time and expense, I also do a lot with, so I want it over here. You can move these around and customize this for your specific user. This is not system-wide. This is only for your user. So it kind of lets you personalize the experience to make it more what you need it to be. You can do this personalized feature on all of the pages as well to kind of move the columns around to see what's relevant to you. Same thing down here. If I want my time and expense history, if I want it somewhere else, I can move this stuff around and it will move. You just have to make sure it links up and you get the big thick red line. So once you have it all personalized, it'll save and it'll be like that every time you log back into the system. Now down here under insights, I get quite a few questions about this. So if you want to add projects to this list, it does not automatically populate. If you want to add projects, you're going to go to manage and you're going to pick the project number that you want to see. So since I'm listed as a project executive, I have all of these projects in my list. However, a normal project manager, they're only going to see the projects that they have permissions to. A line manager doesn't have this, neither does a time and expense user. So you can just come in, you can enter the projects that you want to look at specifically, and then this is what's going to populate them on this list for you. So once I have those, then you can actually see them here. Same thing with tasks. Once you manage, you're going to pick the project number and then you'll pick the task that you want to look at closer. So if there's something that, you know, is close to being at risk, if it's, you know, getting close to the budget percentage, you can put it here so that way you have closer visibility into it. And as soon as you open up your screen, it'll be here. These ones, you may not have these screens down here only because these are part of the Power Pack that I have installed. We will do a full Power Pack overview in week 4. And that adds significant functionality into the system. A lot of the things, if I have something on my screen that you do not, let me know. Or you can install Power Pack and we can walk through setup. We'll walk through setup in week 4. But just because I have something doesn't mean that it's actually standard in Progressus. The very last thing that I want to cover real quick, help and support. If you have a problem, always make sure that you provide this information. So your Business Central version, and then the 6.4 here is your Progressus version. We are pushing out releases about every 6 weeks. So if you're not continuously updating the tenant, you may be on an older version. A lot of times, if you're running into a problem, if we upgrade you to the most recent version, it's easily resolved with that new version. So we always want to make sure that you're on the latest version if you are having problems. So with that, an easy way to see if you are the admin in your tenant, you can come into the admin center here. Admin center opens up. It's going to list out all of the environments that you have in your entire tenant. And here you can see I have a sandbox, I have one without Progressus, and then I have my production environment. If I click on production, This will open up all my information. And this is also where you can see that the updates are going to happen. So here I have an update that's available and it's going to begin on 5/10. So you can actually schedule your updates in here as well. I clicked on apps up at the top and this will show you any available actions that need to be taken. So if I have apps that are not up to date, it will show me the numbers here and you can actually update from the system. Previously, we had to uninstall our application completely and then reinstall it from App Source. However, now you can actually do it through the admin center. I don't think I have any that need to be updated, but if you come in here and you'll actually see that it'll say, you know, you need to update, there's a new version available and you'll just click the update now button to update to the newest version. So that is our admin center. This is all of our apps. And I think that is it on setup. So we have a few minutes. If anybody has questions, I can take a couple questions now, or we can take a quick break and then we can ask them in the QA session, completely up to everybody else.
Thank you, Tasha. That was a lot of information. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There are no questions in the chat, so I'd say your questions are person to person. If we're done, let's let everybody go that needs to go, and anybody that wants to stick around for the QA, we can start that early.
All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, and have an awesome day.
Talk to you next week. Enjoy week 2 homework.